Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, bringing you another episode of the Steelers preview. That's right, the triumphant trio returns. Last time we met, we were heading into a 4-hour show on the first day of the NFL draft. It was a marathon session, but Brian Anthony Davis and Deputy Dave Schofield, we got through it. What's going on, guys? Brian, what's up?
In the 14th round, the Steelers select Dave Schofield.
Kicker.
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 University of Maryland.
Yeah. Deputy Dave, what's up? That's Frostburg.
Yeah. Deputy Dave is deputying it along. Man, that was a lot of coverage over the last week, but it was a lot.
Yes.
I have to admit, it's a lot of fun, but it was pretty exhausting as well.
It is exhausting, and it's a good time for me to say that because of the nature of that beast that was last weekend, draft weekend, I regret to tell a lot of there's not a lot of people that stay, but the after party, we're not doing an after party today. I really hate that we're all exhausted, and it's been a week and we're still tired. Like, honestly, people don't understand. We did a 4-hour show, and then the next 2 days we did a minimum of 4 YouTube shows a day. I didn't do all of them, and I know Dave and Brian didn't do all of them, but it was still a ton. I hope you all enjoyed that content. And I do want to say, let's pat each other on the back here. Today I had some time. I was looking at our downloads per audio platform, and we, in the last calendar year, eclipsed 1 million downloads. We had 1,160,000 some downloads. So I want to say thank you to anyone out there that's listening that tunes into our audio podcast, whether it's just during the season, whether it's all year. You having us in your car or in your earbuds on a treadmill or just listening around the house, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. You all are great. And I want to thank these guys here, along with Lance Williams and Tony DeFeo, for their hard work and their dedication, because it is paying off. And it's crazy when you think about the reach that we have. But we've got people in the live chat right now that are chiming in, and they're all over all over God's green earth. You know, you've got people from Brazil that tune in, Mexico that tune in. Pretty awesome. And Mark Davison, who just chimes in, he says it helps for lockdown, and he's down under with Jennifer Lopez.
We even have somebody from Kansas.
Kansas. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's get things started. I got to give Dave Schofield some credit here. He's the one that thought of tonight's headline in our very brief production meeting earlier this morning, and it was, why are Pittsburgh Steelers fans living in their fears? That was the big question. Now, Dave, I will let you go ahead and elaborate a little bit.
Okay, well, I have to preface this that when I raised this question, it really wasn't to be the title of the podcast. I just asked you guys anyway, and Jeff is like, that's our title for the podcast. I'm like,
hey,
win, yes.
Whatever you say on a Thursday is free game.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a headline.
There's a headline. Yes, living in their fears. A lot of this stems from, with the news coming out this morning that, as expected, because I don't think there was any dead money, it was going to be a $17 million savings. The Cincinnati Bengals decided to release Andy Dalton. And of course, as soon as that comes out, what do we all think of? Now we're going to have to hear that Patriots for a while. What's that? What?
I thought of the Patriots.
Well, yeah. I thought of
Steelers.
How much are we going to now have to hear about Andy Dalton? We heard about Jameis Winston for a long time. We heard about Cam Newton for a long time. We heard about Andy Dalton for a long time. People ask the questions, don't you want that quarterback room to be better? And I'm like, yeah, it would be nice. I mean, you want everything to be better, but you also have to think about reality. But everyone is so concerned. I hear people that are just absolutely adamant. We can't go into 2020 like we did last year. When Ben Roethlisberger gets hurt, we'd be in the same situation. That's living in your fears. And the Steelers aren't doing that. They know they've already allotted everything that they can, if probably more, towards the salary cap for that position. To spend more money on that position and not spend the money to make their team better is living in their fear. So that's one example I thought of when it comes to fans living in their fears. Now I know some people are like, well, why wouldn't you spend that money on another quarterback? Well, why would that be different than we say that it would still be nice to have another safety? Wouldn't it be? Don't you think? Do you guys think that's a position that the Steelers could possibly look into?
Linebacker
inside
too.
Linebacker, that would be a good position. And they're like, well, why not a backup quarterback if you're talking about backup at those positions? But backup players at those positions will actually see the field. A backup quarterback is the one guy you don't ever want to see come in the game unless it's mop-up duty at the end. And if they're just coming in for mop-up duty at the end, it could be the undrafted rookie that goes in and does that, because they're not going out there and asked to actually perform in a way to help you win a ball game. So the goal is you don't need a backup quarterback. Now we understand. Obviously, the Steelers could say, oh, we're not living in our fears. We're not even going to have another quarterback on the roster. That would just be dumb. You have somebody, but you have to understand that you can't that's not the way they're operating. But we live in our fears with so much more than that. Like Jeff had another good example that I think Jeff should talk about, since I've said enough already.
We talked about it last night. There's some people that are in our live chat a lot on my show with Lance. The Standard is the Standard on Wednesday night. There were a lot of people that were just so down in the dumps about, the Steelers draft compared to some of the other teams in the AFC North, predominantly the Ravens. And I said it last night. I'll say it again. You don't win football games in April. And the Steelers defense is really, really good. And Dave even said, and Brian echoed this, Minkah Fitzpatrick is better than any other safety in the division. And he's a game changer. Wouldn't you say, Brian?
And this year more than ever, he's definitely a game changer. But when you throw in the climate that we are at right now globally, when we might not see these rookies get the seasoning that they do in minicamp, and they might not get as much time with the playbooks, might not get as much time. Sure, they might get some playbook time. It might be FedEx to them, sure. But you have a seasoned veteran right now going to year 3 that is on the roster as your number 1 draft pick, just like the Rams doing Jalen Ramsey, just like a DeForest Buckner is in Indianapolis right now. These teams did not have number 1 draft picks, but they're number 1 draft picks. And we celebrated last week when we hit number 18 in the draft, when we're celebrating Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's just, they are why you spent that number 1 draft pick, why you don't have one. So that means that's essentially your number 1 draft pick for this year. So they'll do so much better. So every time that you watched Minkah with those 5 interceptions last year, with the all-pro selection and everything he did, you know that he's going to be so much more seasoned, and it's going to benefit the team. And so you got to think about Chase Claypool, or whoever would have been picked at that second spot at number 49, was not your number 1 draft pick. It was your top choice for this year, but not a number 1 draft pick. So he will not get number 1 draft pick money. He won't get the 4-year contract instead of the with the option, instead the 5-year instead of the 4. Excuse me. He won't get that because he is a number 2. Now we're celebrating him like he's a number 1 pick because he was the first selection. But you got to think, what you got there was a 2nd round value. And you got to think about it this way. So nobody's going to be happy with the draft every year. And the teams that are happy every year, and we see grades with Arizona every year, Cleveland every year, Cincinnati every year. But what do they do with it? And that's the bottom line to it. Good teams draft and draft right. They don't draft sexy. They draft smart. And that's what the Steelers do. That's what the Patriots do. That's what teams do. We talked about Cincinnati, and they dropped Andy Dalton, which is probably a bad idea too, dropping him this early and throwing a guy to the Wolves. That's not what Pittsburgh would do. They would season your quarterback.
Well, it's one of the ways that I think a lot of times fans in general, and this applies for Pittsburgh Steelers fans as well, live in their fears, quote unquote, to use the headline of the episode, is they put their blinders on, and that's part of being a fan. I get it. We're fans too. We're not part of the mainstream Pittsburgh media. But when I hear people talk about Andy Dalton, and they say, or Josh Rosen is another good example of, we need to bring this guy in because, my gosh, look, he would be better than what we have. Go back before Ben Roethlisberger's injury, all right? If I said we really want Andy Dalton on our staff, like I think we need to get Andy Dalton. Like I think we do. Honestly, people would stop listening to the podcast. They would literally be
that is
like,
such a good point.
What is this guy saying? He wants Andy Dalton? I'm out. See ya. Bye. Unsubscribe on whatever. Unfollowing this show. That's what people would do. But because Ben's coming off an injury and somehow people have put these players up on this pedestal, Andy Dalton is garbage. He's not good, folks. He's really not good. If he was that good, would they have made that top pick? Would they be cutting him right now? The answer to those is no. Josh Rosen has done nothing. So here's the thing for me. Another way that people put blinders on is when they look at Mason Rudolph's first season as a player that's actually seeing the field, and they seem to just very conveniently forget about a ridiculous concussion that he went through. The whole Cleveland situation on Thursday Night Football, that can mess with the player's head, especially a young player. I personally, this is just me, and like I told everyone all the time, you're all entitled to your opinion. I just have a microphone in front of my face. I would rather save the money with Mason Rudolph. And if the Steelers, let's say Roethlisberger goes down for 4 games, I think the general rule of thumb is, can they win you 2 or more? And with Mason Rudolph, I say yes. And with that defense, I say yes. Now, yes, it depends on who you're playing. I understand all that. The schedule is going to come out on May 9th. That's not the discussion point right now. But can he win you 2 or more? I think yes. Save money. Go get an inside linebacker. Upgrade your team in other ways. But if Ben Roethlisberger's gone for the year, the season's done anyways, in my opinion. Dave, you might disagree.
Yeah, no, I do, because this is the thing when people talk about quarterback. I'm going to bring up a comment here real quick just to address. It was from Reed. Let's see if it actually comes up. He said, because for the right price, why wouldn't you want another vet in the room? Sure, I'm okay with that if that's what the Steelers choose that they need to do. But what's ridiculous is some of the takes of the Steelers are stubborn or irresponsible or reckless if they don't do something else at the quarterback position behind Ben Roethlisberger. And that's, which I don't agree with at all. So, I mean, they could, but they don't have to do this, because seriously, I know that a lot of people don't feel like, with the other guys they have on the roster, that if Ben went down again and was on IR and not coming back, could that quarterback get us to the playoffs, win in the playoffs, get close to a Super Bowl, or even win a Super Bowl? But my question is, would either of the other guys? Do you think Andy Dalton's going to do that? I mean, like some people are like, oh, Jameis Winston is an upgrade. I don't know that he was, because, as you know, he's one of those wide range guys. He could give you something great and he can give you some real stinkers. So, I mean, 30 plus interceptions speaks for itself. So, but 5,000 yards speaks for itself. The two came hand in hand in the same season. So the question is he going to win the Super Bowl? Because guess what? If not, and if the Super Bowl was the ultimate goal, would you be better off spending several $1 million on that position in case Ben goes down and they have to go the rest of the way? Or would you be better off using that money on other players on this team to make this team as solid as it can to help Ben and everyone else get there and get to the promised land?
Go ahead, Brian, chime in.
All right, here's the deal. The most popular player in 31 cities, and probably not Pittsburgh, but the most popular man in 31 cities is the backup quarterback. We want the backup quarterback all the time. You could be 7-1 and have a bad game, and they want you out of there. How many times have we wanted Ben out of there? Not we, but Steeler Nation says, oh, we got to get him out of there. He's washed up. He's done. 5 interceptions against Jacksonville. He's done. I mean, that happens all the time. We always want something better. We want big names. So when a big name comes available, we got to have them. You know, if an actor from Grey's Anatomy left the show, Steeler Nation would try to pick him up for the Steelers. I mean, if there's a name out there, we got to grab them. And that's our mentality. You know, granted, when I watch the draft, I see that big name, and there's the thing about the big name that attracts me, because I want Coke. I want Pepsi. I don't want Dr. Thunder. I don't want the brands that nobody knows about. I I mean, I want Aunt Jemima. I don't want Bob's syrup.
Did you say Aunt Joe Mama?
Aunt Jemima. I mean, okay. All right. I'm going to get in trouble for that. But I wasn't. But here's the deal. We just need names. But we've talked about this all the time. The Steelers, the Patriots, teams like that, even the Ravens, they're becoming piece of the puzzle. Piece of the puzzle franchises that know how to piece together a winner. Every time you see a big name out there, boom, a team grabs them and they fall flat. Jameis Winston, you got a name, you got a Heisman winner, but you got 30 interceptions with that. And that's what the Saints are getting. All right, so everybody that comes out new, available, we got to have them. I read an article today from somebody that I've actually known 40 years and I lost contact with, and I realized that he's writing in like the Harrisburg area. He wrote an article today, and you can probably see it, saying that the Steelers, this draft shows that the Steelers are going to get rid of Juju Smith-Schuster, and the next guy they're bringing in, not for a wide receiver, but for quarterback, is Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is coming in Pittsburgh next year. They're going to trade for it.
That was an actual publication. Like, is this a blog?
No, it's actually a newspaper.
Oh
my gosh, that's unbelievable.
Oh my.
So I read this, and I was like, wow. I mean, and people were like, wow. And then some people are like trying to jump in and say, well, Rodgers will never sit behind Ben Roethlisberger. And I'm like, well, no, he will. Yeah. And people were, because he's Aaron Rodgers. And now the Steelers, I had people texting it to me. Hey, we're getting Aaron Rodgers. No, we're not getting Aaron Rodgers. Let Kevin Colbert, Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, trust them. They're going to put together a roster.
I think we got spoiled recently. I think we did. Joe Hayden gets cut late by the Browns. People were like, oh, he might go to the Steelers. I'm like, there is no way the Steelers are going to be able to get Joe Hayden. And they did. Next thing you know, Minka Fitzpatrick's on the trading block. There's no way that the Steelers are going to be able to pull that off. And they did. There were three. I heard multiple names of players that the Steelers should sign in free agency. And I'm like, the Steelers aren't going to be able to get any of these guys. One was Derek Watt. When they got him, I'm like, oh, I guess he wasn't worth all that much. The Steelers got him at an all right price. Lance still hates the pickup, but that's Lance. Okay. Then there was Brian's guy, Wisniewski. I never imagined for him signing with the Steelers where he doesn't even count in the compensatory formula for so little. I never imagined that. Of course, you're all over that when you see the price. But the biggest name that Steeler fans are talking about we should go out and get Eric Ebron. I'm like, do you really think we can afford to get Eric Ebron? My goodness, I can't believe Eric Ebron is counting less than $4 million towards the salary cap this year. That is insane. They did fabulous jobs. They are doing these things that I never expected them to do. And yet people were still saying, no, we need more. They're scared if Ben goes down, what are we going to do? They're scared if we don't have him, he's going to be with someone else and it's going to come back to bite us. I know fans that are scared that Mr. Third and Fifth, or you guys call him Gummy Richards or Richard Gummies or whatever it is going to sign with Baltimore along with their fantastic draft. Okay. Don't live in your fears. The Steelers are going to go out there and they're going to play and they're going to do their thing. And you should just get excited about who we got, especially on this defense. And let's roll with it. Sorry, Jeff. I just had to
No. It's okay. Like, there's people like Lance Williams in the live chat, and Lance is just
living in his fears.
Yeah. See,
doing nothing but living in his fears.
He's hating and living in his fears. Now,
all he wants to talk about is injury. That's living in your fears.
Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and that's fine. He's entitled to his too. Let's do this from an organizational standpoint. Okay. First and foremost, last season was the very first time in Ben Roethlisberger's lengthy career that he was lost for almost an entire season, or had a quote unquote season-ending injury. First time. He's missed time. We know that, but this is the first time that he's missed that much time. So I would say that, his age is getting up there, but this is not the norm. Okay. First thing, let's go back. Let's look at how the Steelers organization handles their backup quarterbacks. Okay. If Ben were to be lost for the rest of a season, would Bryant St. Pierre be able to win them a Super Bowl? Dave, what do you think?
No. I was going to
Brian,
be
I know you have a St. Pierre jersey probably, but do you Do you think Brian St. Pierre would win him a Super Bowl?
No. Case Keenum.
Okay.
Won, but no one
What,
else.
what about hold on. Let's continue. Let's continue. What about Dennis Dixon? Would Dennis Dixon have been able to win the Steelers a Super Bowl?
No.
Dave?
No.
No. Okay. How about Mr. Landry Jones? Would he have been able to win the Steelers a Super Bowl?
Hell to the no.
No.
No. How about, we'll even go with Joshua Dobbs. Would Joshua Dobbs have been able to lead the Steelers to a Super Bowl?
No.
Anyone?
Couldn't lead them past the Raiders.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
let's go with the toughest one, and that was, would Charlie Batch be able to win them a Super Bowl? He had to play 14 games. Would Charlie Batch have been able to win? I'm not saying whether that
At the time he was playing, right?
obviously not right now, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not. You know.
With the lineup that he had back then, quite possibly.
Dave?
I'm going with probably not, but he, out of everyone on the list, he would have the best chance. But
Okay.
I mean,
All right. Mike Vick.
Yeah.
No.
Mike Vick?
no,
Byron Leftwich?
no.
Byron Leftwich, by the way, and this kind of solidifies my point.
I
you
do
can
love
agree.
Leftwich.
You can agree with the Charlie Batch, and some people would say with that lineup and that roster, and especially that defense, he could have been able to manage his way through it, and that's fine. You definitely have that as an option. The Steelers organization has never valued the backup quarterback position that much, even with a quarterback that is prone to injury. That's fact. That is fact. They don't look at it as we need to find a Nick Foles. Well, guess what? Nick Foles did what he did in Philly, and he'll forever be embraced by that fan base. That is not normal.
That's
Just
the
not.
exception, not the rule.
Exactly. Very good. And so for me, it's one of those things that Lance is saying Jeff's arguing that it's smart to roll dice. Every team rolls dice. It's not a situation where there's 30, there are not 64 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks in the NFL where every team can have two. It just doesn't happen. Quarterback play in the NFL is bad enough as it is. I mean, my gosh, Baker Mayfield is considered to be a franchise quarterback. I've watched him play for 2 years. I don't believe that. I just don't get it. So people can say all they want about they should do this, they should do that. But I'm going to go down to what Brian Anthony Davis always said. He said it about he said it about the salary cap. He says it about everything. I've learned to trust the Steelers, period. Now, last year, I think they gambled more than they will be this year, meaning last year, Mason Rudolph had no experience. I mean, none. And so when they got rid of Dobbs and they said Mason Rudolph is our guy, he had no experience. Now, this year coming up,
Dobbs.
Right. No, but Dobbs at least got into a game.
He had a
least,
game.
At least he dressed, because he played that one snap against Baltimore, too. Don't forget that.
That's
glorious.
true.
Yeah, it was glorious.
That was a glorious snap. Yeah.
But though,
was
for me,
great.
though, it's one of those things that, you look at this year, at least Rudolph and not a doubt Hodges even makes the team. We talked about that before, but Rudolph at least has experience. He has been there. He is not going to be overwhelmed by the situation. Now, I know that Ezra says Nick Foles and the Eagles have shown the league that a quality backup is needed. I just said this. There's not enough quality quarterbacks in a starter, let alone enough quality backups. That is, maybe I'm out of my mind. Brian, go ahead. You can talk me off the ledge.
I'm agreeing with you. Last year, that team was not going to win the Super Bowl, but a better backup quarterback would help the Steelers make the playoffs and maybe go a little further. I could see them winning.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. Your man crush, Case Keenum. If he was hold on.
Crush. He's my quarterback crush.
Could they have won a Super Bowl? Super Bowl, not get to the playoffs, not advance to the divisional round. Could they have won a Super Bowl? Because in Pittsburgh, you're not measured by playoff appearances. You are measured by one thing, and we know what that is. It's Super Bowl champion. Would he have won them a Super Bowl?
No. He could have gotten them in the Super Bowl, but winning the Super Bowl?
No.
I don't think so.
So what are we talking about?
And I agree with the point. And I'm not arguing with Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that they would have done better last year. But last year, they got valuable play out of Mason Rudolph. And it's a shame November 14th happened, because November 14th might have stunted his career.
I agree.
And that is a shame. And that's going to follow him for a long time for something that he was, I don't want to get into all of that, but he was more of a bystander and a reactor to, and he became a scapegoat. So I'm not going to go any further than that. But what I'm going to say is you're going to find out this is Mason Rudolph's year to prove whether he continues to be the backup, or whether the Steelers believe that he is going to be the successor to Ben Roethlisberger. I think this is last chance gas for Mason Rudolph, actually. And they will go ahead and entertain it. Anybody that is upset that the Steelers did not pick a quarterback in the draft, look, you were not getting your future in Jalen Hurts or Jacob Eason. You were not getting the future
They
there
wouldn't
at
want a
number
Super
2.
Bowl this year either.
So
yeah, and if it's not the future, not winning your Super Bowl this year, then why bother?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Mason Rudolph still has a chance to be the leader of this team. They're going to give it to him. That's what they drafted him for. And look, they evaluate him every single day when he is there. They see everything he does. We don't. I joked a lot during the draft that we don't have a scouting department in our living room that works for us, and none of us do. They also see what these guys do. And somebody just brought up Paxton Lynch. Everybody loves Paxton Lynch because he's the next guy in to see what he can do. And then when he gets out there, we're not going to love him anymore. Remember I talked about in 31 other cities, the most popular guy is the backup quarterback until he takes the snap. When he takes that first snap and he gets that first loss, he's done. Then there's a new guy.
Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Myself and Dave with Mason Rudolph last year. We kept on saying,
that's because we liked him in the draft.
No,
yeah.
I know.
We
No,
were
I know.
excited to see
No,
what he could
I'm
do.
saying we were both big fans, and I still do think Mason Rudolph has potential. It wasn't until I really value what Jim Wexell thinks about the team. He's pretty open if you follow him on Twitter. And he actually said, people are giving Rudolph no credit at all. And he still thinks that he can develop into a serviceable quarterback. Is he a franchise quarterback? No, he's not saying that at all. But a serviceable quarterback, that's what you want in a backup quarterback. So let me ask you guys this question. Dave, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Let's say 2020 happens on schedule, all that stuff with blah, blah, blah. We know it. Ben goes down for 4 games. Say it's a twisted ankle, high ankle sprain. He's out for 4 games. Here comes Mason Rudolph. Let's just say it's a moderate stretch, the 4 games. 2 really tough teams, 2 winnable games. Can he win you 2 games or 3? Or is this something where you're like, oh, hell, we'll be lucky to win 1?
I'll be honest with you. I think he can win you 2 games. I don't know that he can win you 3, but I'll be honest with you. With the defense and everything else, and with an extra team in the playoffs, if you just want to get to the dance, he really only has to win 1. If you're talking about Ben for 12 games, and then, now assuming that we're getting something closer to a 2018 Ben than what we had for 6 quarters in 2019, that's just the assumption. I think even just 1 could do it, and I think he can win you 2, especially with this defense. And I also think it would depend on what point of the season it was. If you're talking like week 2 to 5, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than weeks 8 to 12 because of just the overall other positional players and the offense in general being more experienced and with more game experience into the season. So I think it would depend when in the season, everything else. But I think even just winning 1, you don't want him to come in and go 0-4.
Right.
You need someone that can win you at least 1 game in there, because otherwise I think you could be okay.
What about you, Brian? Same situation. How do you see it playing out?
Maybe 3-1, maybe 2-2. We had a situation back in that 2015 season when was it 15, I believe, when Ben went down, or it was whenever Ben went Vic, I believe it was 15. Vic won a game. Landry won a game. They lost a couple too. So I think they were 2-2, but they stayed in.
Hold on.
Made the
Let me see if I can get it. Vic beat St. Louis, the Rams, right?
He finished that game. Yeah.
He finished that game.
He finished that game.
He beat San Diego.
No, he lost to the Raiders. The Ravens.
No.
Lost
But
to the
he
Ravens next.
He beat San Diego, didn't he?
Yeah, but
That
week
was-
4 was
That
the
was
Ravens.
Week 4
Le'Veon
was
Bell's
the
last.
Ravens. It was
He
a
beat
Thursday
the-
night game.
and then he beat
That was
San
the
Diego on
Scobie
Monday
debacle.
night.
The Scobie debacle. And then
he got injured and had
Against
they were
Arizona.
losing against Arizona.
Wasn't
My
Arizona?
sister was
Yes.
was in my seats for that game and watched Landry Jones come out and come from behind and beat the Cardinals when the Cardinals were good.
And then
So-
Kansas City whooped him.
Yeah.
And that was Landry Jones was starting in Arrowhead. And
Yes.
that was a game that honestly, remember Alejandro Villanueva got beat bad and he got
Mhm.
there was a strip sack. Who's the guy who was their pass rusher that was really
Tom
good?
Ali.
Yes, Ali got him. And that was actually a close game. That was
Yeah.
a close game for a while, but sorry, just tripped down memory lane.
In the end, somebody brought up 2010.
Mhm.
You had Dennis Dixon. You had Charlie Batch. I
Mhm.
believe you had Byron Sandwich in there too. Those they really should have been 4-0 to start that season. During Ben's suspension, they started out. They were 3-0. They lost to the Ravens and they got ripped off. Michael Orr. Every time James Harrison went towards him, he stepped off sides. They never called it, and there was some glaring stuff in that game, and it just drove me crazy. And Hushman Zada, who I abhor more than anybody, I think he caught the game-winning catch. I hate that guy.
Is he your
Yeah, let's not relive that one.
is he out of all the Bengals, is he at top of your list?
Bar freaking none. Yeah.
More than perfect.
More than
really?
perfect.
Oh yeah. He took
Wow.
a terrible towel.
Oh,
December
he
5th.
cleaned his cleats.
December 5th, 2005. He hid in the gosh darn tunnel, Jeff and Dave. He hid in the tunnel
I
just so
know,
people could
I
see him.
know.
He's wiping his shoes, being a big jagoff. And guess what? You guys are gone. Oh, but let's cry when you heard Carson Palmer. Blah, chemo went awful. Offense the devil. You know, like all that. But his karma sunk that team. Oh man, I wish I could
All right.
swear on the show.
I have a question now. And Jeff, do you want to answer your question so that I can ask the question? Do you think
I
Rudolph
agree
gives
with
you
you.
to it?
Yeah, I think he does. Yeah.
My question is this. Let's go back in free agent time and say, okay, the Steelers have $4 million worth of cap space for this year. They could either sign Eric Ebron or they sign a backup quarterback. Which one are you taking?
Give me Ebron all day, every
Of
day.
course, give you Ebron, right, Brian?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the decisions that the Steelers already made, and we're not going to complain. I mean, what people really wanted that backup quarterback. We needed to make the room better. Lance is still crying about it. If we didn't get Ebron because of that, are you okay with that? That we would have said, let's upgrade our backup, who we never want to step on the field, rather than actually get hopefully some more certainty in the tight end position? I mean, come on. That's better. That's money better spent. And that's what it really comes down to. The Steelers spent their money more wisely, and they're saying you can't have the best guy, the best backup in the league at every position. You just can't do it. You have to choose where you're going to go. And guess what? They're going with Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm fine with that.
And you know what, guys? I'd love to have a backup quarterback. I'd love to have a veteran minimum backup quarterback. I keep talking about Matt Moore too. And Matt Moore helped Kansas City win a Super Bowl.
Is he available?
A guy like that. What's that?
Is he a free agent?
Yeah.
I don't think he is.
He's not even signed right now. But I mean, I would take a guy like that.
Really?
Yeah. He is a free agent. And if I'm wrong, I'll apologize, but I'm pretty sure he still is. So, I mean, I would take that guy, but not over Ebron, over Wisniewski, over these guys that we needed to bring in. You have to prioritize your needs. I'd love to have one. And none of us, the three of us, aren't saying that we never need a backup quarterback. What we're saying is that you got to prioritize. And right now, with what the Steelers need, they filled holes to fit that window. That's exactly what they did in the draft. They filled the right holes, and that's going to come back and haunt me too. But they did that, and they're really on their way because they know how to take a roster and put it together and put a depth chart together. So I agree. I mean, I am agreeing with everything they're doing.
Okay. Aaron puts $5 in the tip jar. Thank you very much for that. He says the backup quarterback conversation isn't about winning. It's about not losing the game at best. How many NFL teams even have a championship quarterback on them? And that's what I was saying. People talked about the XFL. Honestly, when everyone said like, hey, Jeff, are you watching the XFL? I was like, there's not even enough good quarterbacks in the NFL, let alone to field a whole nother league. Like the quarterback, if we all believe that it is the most important position, that says a lot about the level of quarterback play. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it. We spent more time on this than I thought, but you know what? It was a good venting session for a lot of people. You know what? If you all want to hate on Lance or if you want to agree with why don't we just go get Patrick Mahomes? What the heck? While we're playing with Monopoly money, while we're playing with Monopoly money, let's just go get everyone. Lance will have a show tomorrow night. Yeah, I said it. And I believe he's going to talk about this. So if you are someone that agrees or disagrees, go into the live chat and you can either heckle the heck out of him or you can agree with him. That's your prerogative. In the meantime, we're going to preview one of our draft picks every single show up until, well, not next week. Next week, I believe, is when the schedule's released. And so if that's happening on the 9th, we'll be doing our schedule release show.
The 9th is Saturday.
Oh.
So the 9th is the deadline, but some people are saying there's a good possibility that it could be before the 9th. The 9th is just the latest. They don't say, the NFL doesn't announce it until a day or two beforehand. Okay, we're going to do the schedule show this night. There's a chance it's probably either going to be next Thursday, Friday, or Saturday.
They will announce it because the NFL Network will do a 2-hour show around it. So we got to make sure we will be on for that no matter what. But anyways, we are going to go draft pick by draft pick. Well, guess what? Everyone's doing this right now. Every podcast. Dave is starting to do it on his Stacky podcast. I was like, you know what? Everyone's hearing about Chase Claypool right now. Let's go backwards. Let's start with round 7 and move to round 1. We'll be different. We'll meet in the middle, but that's okay. We're going to start off with Brian Anthony Davis's long lost son, Carlos. I'm not sure what that maybe was. That I don't know if that was the Yeti child or not, but
the 90s were a very, very productive time for the bad stuff.
Okay. Carlos Davis, defensive tackle / nose tackle from Nebraska. He was their 7th round draft pick. His twin brother went a round before him to Tampa Bay, right, guys? Is that where he went?
Yeah, he's in Tampa Bay, and he's not my son, only Carlos.
Right, yes. That's naturally.
Yes. I only put in half the work.
Okay. See, you're getting a little after party in the Steelers preview. There you go. All right, so first question that everyone wants to know. They don't care about his twin. They don't care about a lot of the stuff. They all want to know one thing, and it's a yes or no question. And I'm going to ask both of you this question before we get in any breakdowns or scouting reports. And that is, will this guy be the guy that bumps Daniel McCullers off the roster finally? That's what everyone wants to know. When Lance and I did this show, after they drafted Davis in the 7th round, we talked about the 6th and 7th round picks on that show. That's what everyone was talking about. Can this player actually bump McCullers off the roster? Brian Anthony Davis, yes or no? Can he do it?
He can. He really can. McCullers is done. And Lance Williams will be buying me a jersey.
That's right. You have that bet.
Yeah, so we have a bet. Now there's a couple guys that they brought in in free agency, undrafted free agents. One from Kentucky, but the one I like more from Ole Miss. I think that fella the fella from Ole Miss too has an opportunity to make the team as well. It's going to be one or the other, but it's not going to be McCullers.
Deputy Dave, what are your thoughts?
I think they do have plenty of competition this year to where McCullers could get bumped, but it all depends on how they come out, given the Dave answers. But I gotta go with my gut. My gut is, for some reason, McCullers finds a way to stick around. They'll keep guys with the practice squad and stuff instead, and hold on to McCullers for another year. I'm not saying I want them to. I'm just saying that if I say that they do and then they don't, If I'm right, then I get to be right. And if I'm wrong, I get to be happy.
My answer to this question, and you all might disagree, I think it has more to do with Isaiah Buggs than it does with Carlos Davis. Because if you look at their defensive front, if everyone's healthy, Tuitt, Hayward, Alualu, Buggs fits into this equation. If he's playing well, if he could maybe play some nose tackle, Carlos Davis could actually be on the roster, and it wouldn't need to be pressed into activity right away. They could cut McCullers, save a little bit of cap space. But I think, yes, I think this is the year that Daniel McCullers is deemed expendable, because the one thing that Davis has that Daniel McCullers doesn't is athleticism. Daniel McCullers has size, freakish size, but how many times have we heard it every single year? His pad level's too high. He never plays angry. If we could just get him motivated. Well, you know what? If that's the MO on him every single year, then we'll see you later. Because I'd rather have a kid in Carlos Davis that can run a 4.8 at his size and say, you know what, big fella, get in there, tie up some blockers, go make a play. That's what I'd rather see. So I think McCullers is done. But
here's a question, Jeff. Why
What's
does
up?
a guy who runs a 4.8 as a defensive tackle get drafted in the 7th round?
Everything I've read and have seen is that he's just really rough around the edges, that he hasn't played football. He's not
doesn't
he's
have
an
good
athlete.
tape, doesn't have good numbers. I mean, he is the epitome of a 7th round draft pick. And you know what that is? A flyer. You take a flyer on a guy rather than wait to see if you can sign him. You look at all the guys that you think might be available as undrafted free agents, and you pick the one guy that you say, you know what, this is the guy we want to hold on to. This is who we'll take in the 7th round. I have some interesting stuff, though, about the defensive tackle position.
Go.
Okay. The Steelers are constantly taking defensive tackles in the 6th and 7th rounds. It's what they do.
LT Walden.
Okay.
Well, no, look at this. The last 12 drafts, we're going to go back to 2009. In either the 6th or 7th round, do you know how many defensive tackles they've drafted in 12 drafts?
10.
Not quite that well. They've drafted that many
in the 6th and 7th
earlier
round?
rounds, but only in the 6th or 7th round.
Good, Brian. Take a guess.
Let's say 8.
Mark
It's
Davis
8.
says 40.
8. I mean, just think 8
Nice.
out of 12 years and on 6th and 7th rounds. But look at what they've got. They're constantly taking flyers because here's what they're doing. If you look at it, when I looked at the guys that they've drafted, I'm like, it's so clear. It's so clear what they're doing. It's obvious. They are spending their top draft capital on their starters, and they are taking flyers on guys that they hope they could maybe get a few seasons for depth. That's what they're doing. Because look at it. I mean, if you want to go up, they haven't drafted any. I just did 12 years. They haven't drafted any in the 5th round. One in the 4th round who did not play a game for the Steelers. Do you remember who that was in 2012? That was
Shaq Richardson was a defensive back.
that was
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know.
with the apostrophe.
2012?
Yeah.
2012?
Yes.
I don't remember this player. Go tell me, what is it?
Amu.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was a 4th round draft pick.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was in the 4th round.
Yeah. Tiasiu,
So
they liked him, and then he did get in trouble too.
yeah, and he
as a
didn't
Steeler.
even play a game for the Steelers. He started a couple games, I think, in Arizona it was.
Probably.
But
That's
he
a good
didn't.
guess.
But if you
started
go
a
all
few
the way up
games
to
for
the 4th
Arizona.
round, if you go all the way up to the 4th round and include him, but I mean, if you look at these guys, out of those 8 draft picks, half of them never played for the Steelers. Half of them never played for the Steelers. Joshua Frazier didn't play for anybody. Nick Williams never played for the Steelers, but he started, I think, 5 games this past year in Chicago. Okay. Doug Worthington in 2010 never played for the Steelers.
He played a
Harris.
while in the league though. Worthington did.
Yes,
funny.
he did, but not for the Steelers. And Rashawn Harris in 2009.
Yeah,
drafted in the
Sonny
6th
Harris.
round, didn't play for the Steelers. So only 4 of them played. Out of all those 8 guys that were drafted in the 6th and 7th round, the Steelers have a total of 7 games started. 7 games started out of all those guys. And the person leading the way is not Dan McCullers. It's LT Walton. He started 4,
Yeah.
and McCullers has technically under his belt 3 starts based on formation and whatnot. So this is what they do. They bring in defensive tackles late. They see if there's a flyer. They see if it's someone they can have to kind of fill out the bottom part of the roster. And when they really need to address the position, they spend a first, second, or third round pick on them.
Could I jump in here real quick, Dave?
That's their MO.
McClendon's another good name. They didn't draft him.
Yeah.
But McClendon started a few years there. I believe he was he an undrafted free agent or brought in from another team?
I'm not sure. That was before 2009, wasn't it? So I didn't even
it was right around there.
I only went back to guys that were drafted since 2000.
Okay, yeah, he was not drafted, but you're absolutely correct. That's their MO. They just go and fill in these guys. I do like the Bugs pick last year. He's the one out of them all that I think has a chance to stick as long as a guy like a Shade Tree.
Aaron puts $5 in the tip jar and says you can make minute rice in the time that it takes Davis to react to the snap of the ball. Are you going to let him talk about your kid like that, Brian?
He's a good guy. You know, I have no problem with that. I mean, gosh, there's a lot of Zima flowing that night. You know,
a lot of Zima.
I was on the Zima.
Did you put a Jolly Rancher in there?
I had a buddy one night. He's like, "Hey, we have some friends coming.
This is what happens when there's no after party.
I've got a case of Zima, baby. The ladies will be flocking." I'm like, "They're not coming just because you bought Zima."
Got some Smirnoff Ice. Here we go. All right. So it all comes down to those late round picks that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks. Expectations, it comes down to you can't look at this guy. Like I said, in my opinion, it's not what Davis, it's what Isaiah Buggs. Like Isaiah Buggs is the guy, in my opinion, that's going to knock off McCullers by showing that he's worthy of more snaps. Yeah, another one.
Henry Mondu. I think Davis is more primed for the practice squad than he is for the roster. They didn't, that's kind of where your 7th round guys end up sometimes unless they do a great job. So if he doesn't make the team, don't flip out. That's what happens with these guys. That's where they end up.
Yeah. So we'll keep you up to date on all things Carlos Davis related out of Nebraska, the defensive tackle.
Good value pick. He was a good pick there.
If you're going to take a flyer, why not take it on a fast raw guy and see what you can do with him?
Now, Dave, he's probably a fan favorite of yours. He's a track and field guy.
Dotson's the shot putter. So
he was a discus, wasn't he?
I thought Davis was a discus.
Davis was discus, but that wasn't Dave's.
I think so, but I also threw discus. I threw discus in high school. I tinkered a little bit with it in college, but I was mainly focused on shot put and hammer in college. But Dotson was a shot putter. So I mentioned that on our show when Brian and I were.
Please hammer, don't hurt them.
Quick sidebar. Speaking of the hammer, did anyone else see that video online that went viral of the girl throwing the hammer and it slipped out of her hands and hits the judge square in the giblets?
Judge?
He's like standing at the clipboard.
Oh, that wasn't
I thought they were
really
in a courtroom.
A hammer. That was
like
that was a little something.
What is
different.
that called?
Yeah, but
what is it called? It still looked like it hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know exactly what you're talking about. I did see that. But see, because the hammer actually does have an indoor version where the weight is a lot more. Like for the men, you're throwing a 35-pound weight. It's the same technique as the hammer, but just doesn't go as far and it's not as long. So therefore, the distance is cut down. It seemed like it was almost doing something like that. I think she was. I don't even think that was in competition. I think they were just warming up, and she. Bang!
I have not seen that.
I actually saw that. It was good.
But the minute you said that, Jeff, I pictured like Judge Joe Brown and a woman throwing a hammer at him, and I was like, she hit the judge.
Oh, dear.
It's like this whole courtroom's out of order.
Hey,
all right, go ahead.
I had a trivia question from last week that I didn't get to ask, and I'd really like to ask it this week.
All right.
Well, we're doing trivia. Do you have more than one or just this one?
Oh, no, just that one. No, I thought you might be ending it. I thought we might skip the trivia.
No. We're doing trivia. That's how we're ending the show.
Okay. Oh, good. So here we go. Now, for those of you that came on late, I know someone just was upset. We are not doing the after party tonight. We were just doing a little bit longer show here. So we'll let Jeff talk about that more. Trivia. The Steelers did something in 2019 that they had not done in 3 seasons since 2016. And that was they actually had a defensive player take an offensive snap. Now, in 2016, that player was a starter, but he's no longer on the team, and played 2 snaps on offense. Did anyone remember that one from 16?
Wait, I'm sorry. It's not you.
A
defensive player who took offensive snaps. The Steelers had a defensive player take 2 snaps in 2016. This wasn't the real question. The other one's the 19. I'll go ahead and tell you. It was Lawrence Timmons. Took 2 offensive snaps in 2016. Yes, he did. He was credited for 2 snaps. In 2019, there was a defender who took 1 snap on offense. Do you know the defender? Do you know the game? And do you know what happened?
Is it a victory formation?
It is not.
So would that count though?
Guess. That would have counted.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Troy used to be in there for
Troy used to be the deep man on the victory formations. That's why I was thinking about that. Okay.
Vince Williams. Was it Vince?
That's a good guess. Don't look in the live chat because they know.
Okay, I'm thinking either Vince or Devin Bush, but I'm not looking.
I looked in the live chat. I'm eliminated.
Go ahead and say it then, Jeff.
If they're right, it's Alualu as fullback.
Alualu.
Really?
He played 1 snap.
I do remember that now.
Do you know which game it was?
No, I don't. Let's see if someone in the live chat knows. If you know, fire away.
I know what game and what play and what happened.
It was against Los Angeles because you were there.
No.
Okay.
I was not at this game. But this game was at Heinz Field.
Okay. Colts game.
Okay. It was in week 5.
Bengals?
Against the Baltimore Ravens. It was several on the same drive in which Mason Rudolph was knocked out. He went into the game at fullback when James Conner scored a touchdown.
Goal line situation, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
On a 1-yard touchdown. Alualu went in and Conner scored the touchdown. But Alualu went right and Conner went left. Touchdown.
There you go. That's a good one. I like that. Yep. What about you, Brian? Do you have a trivia one?
I have a beautiful trivia question that is going to be really tough, and this comes from the top of my head because I'll never forget this. So we just had the draft, and the Steelers do not draft Heisman Trophy winners. They've had a few play for them. The last being the kid out of Ohio State, the quarterback that I can't even remember his name, but in 2000. The Heisman winner in 2006, but that's not what I'm talking about. He ended up playing for the Ravens as well, but they never drafted him. The last time the Steelers drafted a Heisman Trophy finalist, I'm talking a finalist, was in 1988. Who was that player and where did he play?
No clue.
Dude, I was 10 years old. I'm not going to remember the draft from when I was 10. I'm not.
Can anybody in the live chat get it?
A Heisman Trophy finalist.
I'll send you a picture of me in the finny pants if somebody can get it in the next 10 seconds.
Good Lord, please no one do it.
So what year did you say that was?
1988.
It was 1988 for the Steelers, and they were a Heisman Trophy winner.
He didn't play. He ended up not making the team, but they drafted a Heisman Trophy finalist.
Wow. Interesting. Let's see. I think I'm going to have to go with.
Wait, has it been 10 seconds?
Probably.
Stop, Dave. Don't answer. Okay, you're good now. Go ahead.
It's not a quarterback, right?
No.
I don't know. Let's go with. Would you say he ended up not making the?
Gosh, why didn't you just tell us who it was?
I don't know.
Well, I'm waiting for Deputy Dave Jefferson. Come on.
Let's go with wide receiver Mark Zeno.
Oh, I like that, but no.
Dick Shiner.
Running back Gordy Lockbaum.
Wait. What?
Running back Gordy Lockbaum.
Yes.
I just looked up their 88 draft.
Holy Cross.
Yes, by the Holy Cross.
Damn it, Dave. I wanted the glory of the big fanfare of going, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the great.
Well, who was the Hall of
Holy
Famer
Cross.
that was in the same draft class?
Gordy Lockbaum. You wrote it for me, Dave.
Who's the Hall of Famer from the same draft class? You can have that glory.
The Hall of Famer from the 1988 draft class?
Yes.
Yeah. From Dermontti Dawson.
That is correct. Very good, Brian. See,
And
there
then-
you got your glory.
I think Chuck Lanza went on the 3rd round there, too. And the great Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, one of the worst number 1 draft picks that everybody forgets about, went number 1 that year. There you go.
18th pick out of Eastern Kentucky.
Eastern Kentucky.
Okay.
And then Dermontti came from Kentucky.
Hey, Jeff, what do you got?
Let's go to the simpleton round of the trivia. That's my trivia questions. Not nearly as much thought as those two goofs, Dick Shiner related people. Okay. First question. I have two for tonight. The first one I feel is a little bit easier, a little warm-up question. If you didn't hear, Chase Claypool shocked the world, including Mr. Bryan Anthony Davis, by not taking 83. How dare you take Heath Miller's number? He decided to go with 11. Who are the last 3 Steelers to wear the number 11?
I know 2 of them.
Did you guys hear the question? That frees
Yeah.
up? I don't know.
Yeah.
I heard last 3
I heard
Steelers to
it.
wear 11.
So who was the last player to wear 11?
Brian, you say the first one, the most recent. I'll
The
say the
most
second
recent-
most recent.
Was
Yeah.
Moncrief.
Yes. Then it was Marcus Wheaton.
That is correct.
And then
And Brian.
Stephon
Is
Logan?
that
Or was that 2?
It was not the next. Don't look in the live chat.
Okay.
No.
No,
Someone got in the live chat. A bunch of people are now.
because it's not Sammy Coates, because Sammy Coates wore 14.
I'll give you a hint. Ben Roethlisberger ruined his career.
Oh, that's Justin Hunter.
Hunter.
He made him have to die for that ball.
Very
I
good.
got it.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Let's just
I didn't
hope
know
that
he was
Chase
11.
Claypool
I forgot
breaks that number 11 mold.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was.
What's it?
Okay. Here's the one I'm really proud of. I did not know this. Okay, so it's the end of the draft. I'm like a zombie staring at my computer, writing articles and getting stuff scheduled for the next day. And I just didn't want to hear the morons on ESPN talk anymore. So I get on my Roku, I get on ESPN Plus that I paid for, and I'm just looking for Steelers stuff. And I find the greatest games. And I'm like, okay, Super Bowl 9's great, 10. Well, okay. Super Bowl 40. There's something about Super Bowl 40. It's like, I want to watch that. So I turn it on. It's on the TV. I've seen it a million times. I forgot just how bad Ben played and how great Hines Ward played in that game, by the way. Here's the trivia question. Ben Roethlisberger keeps it on a bootleg, gets the first down. We all know Bill Cowher going, boom, baby, boom. And then he stands on the sidelines waiting to get dumped with water. Gatorade. It was water, by the way. The question is, who are the 2 players that carried the jug of water that doused Bill Cowher in Super Bowl 40? And I'll give you a couple seconds, and then I'll give you a hint.
I'm thinking Debo
You
was
don't have
one
to
of
give
them
it-
for some reason.
I was thinking Casey Hampton was one of them.
You're on the
Or maybe
wrong side
Joey
of the
Porter.
football.
Really?
You're on the
It was
wrong side of the
offensive
football.
guys. Really?
Yes.
I thought the defenses who got to splash him.
And they had sequential numbers.
Sequential offensive numbers. So I'm going to go. Was it Starks? I'm thinking it was a big guy.
I think I like Stark.
Max Starks was 1. The question
Okay.
is it 77 or 79?
Yeah.
Marvell
Check your
Smith.
2000.
You go
Say
to
that
Marvell?
again?
Marvell Smith.
That is correct. Number 77. Marvell Smith and Max Starks were the 2 guys with the jug, 77 and 78. I saw
I
that and
knew
I was
it
like,
was a
that's
big guy.
Good question. That's a great
That's
question.
a great question. That was oh yeah. Jeff knocked
See,
it
I
out of
like-
the park tonight.
I like the stupid information that you can go to a party. Oh, I'm a Steeler fan. Oh, well, you know the 2 linemen that had the You get Ray Jug in Super Bowl 40. It makes you sound so much smarter. It's
Yeah,
just
but
like when people.
how many fun we're going to get when you bust out Gordy Lockbaum, though? You're going to get a bunch.
How
Brian,
many times are you going to bust out
get
Dick
a lot.
Shiner?
And I
What's
did
that,
admit to
Dick
you.
Shiner? I'm getting you a Dick
had
Shiner
the Steelers
jersey.
draft
Jeff.
picks up on a different window, so I just went over and looked. So I'm sorry.
I
It's not like
don't-
I really knew that, but
No.
yeah, it's because
I don't want a Dick Shiner jersey unless you can get both first and last name on the back. That's
Dick Shiner.
because no one would get it if it just said Shiner. Like I want.
The only NASCAR driver you ever knew was Dick Trickle, I'm sure.
Dick Trickle.
Olbermann made him famous.
So, well, guys,
Yeah.
sports are starting to come back. NASCAR announced that they are picking up their races starting the middle of May. So,
And the PGA Tour will be back in June. Now there's not going to be any. There's not going to be any crowds for the first month.
for at least the
So
first
the-
month.
So the first 4 events, they do 1 event a week. There will not be any patrons there watching. So the only time that the patrons can get back will be July. We'll see. I think
Who-
that NHL and NBA are on their way back to without fans as well.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, who's next of the big 4? I'd say NHL.
Well, I see. Every time you hear news, like NHL says that they're looking at neutral site locations, that it's not a hotbed, that they could go back without fans and be safe. But the NBA is saying that they're going to let practice facilities open up for anyone that lives in an area where the stay-at-home restrictions have been lifted, which I find that to
Tomorrow.
be unbelievably unfair. I give Roger
Mhm.
Goodell credit here. I said this on our show last week. He said that no teams will be allowed in the facility until all teams are able to be in the facility.
Which is
And that's
right.
only fair because he said the reason the NFL draft went off the way it did was because everyone was on the same playing field. No one was in a war room. No one was sitting. It's not like the Steelers had to be dispersed in homes. And then in Kansas City, they were all hunkered down and they had their facility open. That would have been unfair. So Goodell said in an interview on NFL.com, a written interview, he said, we won't open up everything until all teams are able to be open. So when that happens, I don't know. But it's good that sports are coming back. It's really good that sports are coming back.
So
I'm
for
excited.
all the
We-
negativity of people saying there's no way the NFL was going to have a season this year, there's other sports that are going to be coming back before we have to worry about the NFL. Now, some people are saying, well, if there's no college, why is there? If there's no college, that's because of universities not being able to open in the way that they do. That's different than the professional sports.
Real quick, could I give credit to the NFL and Roger Goodell? I thought the draft was fantastic. It was a great show.
was.
They did it well. There's talking about how this might change the way they draft. They might alter the draft a little bit in a way because of the way they did this. I thought it was a fantastic draft. They really, really put on a great show. And hats off to Roger Goodell for being there for a lot of the picks.
How funny were those moments like in
Oh my
Tennessee where they had the guys in the background, or the Easton house where the guy comes walking out and didn't know the camera's on, he's shirtless, he's putting a shirt. You got those
Walking out
Belichick's
with a
dog,
girl
Reed.
next to him.
You know, you got Reed. Reed brings up a good point. I'll put it up there. He said Belichick's dog
Yes.
sitting in a chair. Like
That I thought won it.
you got some great moments.
We had a guy that I thought died. I don't know whether it was somebody from Jerry Judy's family or someone like around pick 11 or 12.
Fell on the ground.
He
Yeah.
just fell over. I'm like, oh my God, is that guy dead?
You know, the mom ripping the girlfriend off of him. And
Oh, yeah.
that
and
was-
hey, don't
those were
forget
great
was it
moments.
CD
And the
Lamb
snatching the
who
phone.
took the phone
Yeah.
back.
Well, because I mean, think
No,
they're
good.
sitting there on camera for hours, not knowing when they're actually going to be using the footage of them. So that's crazy.
All except the
They
Wang
never
and the
knew when they
green.
were going to be cutting to their facility or anything.
The Wang with the lime green shirt and the lime green shoes. I loved him
Wang
beforehand,
Harbs
but
and
now
his
Patrick
birdhouses.
Queen is Patrick Queen's the devil now.
I thought you talking about Wang Harbs.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to
talking about Wang
Baltimore, so
Harbs.
they're all Wangs.
Mhm.
You walk through Charm City, baby, as a player, you become a Wang.
Wang City. That's what they
Wang City.
Wang City, here we come.
You get crabs in Wang
Hey.
City.
All right. On that note, I think that it's a good stopping point. Like I said, there's no Yeah. Yeah. There's no after party tonight. We decided to just do one show. We add some little flavor at the end. We'll be back unless the schedule is released next Thursday. We'll do an after party next week and get back into the swing of things. But thank you everyone for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like our videos. If you're an audio platform, obviously make sure that you subscribe depending on where you listen. So guys, thank you very much for your time. Everyone out there, remember, like Lance always says, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview.